Hi, welcome. My name is Dale McCluskey. And on this video clip, I'd like to discuss the collar itself, how to use the collar, and in relation to creating a relational change with your dog. Here what I have is a collar, an all-in-one collar and leash all attached. I use this in training a little bit with some dogs that are expressing a little more higher level of challenge. I use this as kind of like a lasso effect to get a hold of the dog, and then just to clip it in tight, so secure it so that I'm not going to get bitten with the dog. So, but in most cases, you don't need to have something like this. Just having a straight flat collar is all you need. So here, when we talk about having a straight flat collar, what I use just a nylon type of a collar. I mean, it can be a different material type of collar, but what I'll use is just a normal type of a collar in training. And here with this one, and with the other, where the collar is just collar without the leash attached. What you do is basically just a flat collar and just secure it into place. So you can use the different tighteners to do that. But the idea, the concept here is, a collar is just a tool, just like the leash itself is a tool. And everything, you have to look at everything through the relational lens. So everything is because that's how dogs see it. Everything is an extension of you. It's nature represents the whole, not a part. It's all relational stuff. So when you're using a tool, understand that it's just like it kind of fades out, so to speak. So here, the collar itself, what you do when you're using your collar on your dog is you want to have it tight enough so the dog cannot easily slip out, but not too tight so it's uncomfortable to the dog. So basically, the kind of rule of thumb is to be able to get a couple fingers through, not fingers kind of on top of each other, but side by side, be able to get the fingers through the collar so that it's not going to be too tight. You don't want it to be too tight because again, if it's too tight, again, it's about communication. You don't want it to be uncomfortable, and you don't want it to express influence like that. Here, when I'm using the leash and collar, yes, I'm expressing, creating these what I refer to as follower moments, but they're expressed at the moment that I'm focused on relational change. But so when the collar is just on the dog, again, you want it to be on the dog but not too tight, and be able to get a couple fingers through. Now, again, the issue here is when you're using the collar and using the leashes, I want it to be tight enough so the dog cannot easily slip its head out from the collar. There's times that we are bringing the mind under influence, and there's going to be there could be some resistance to that. And the technique for that is, and I'll explain on my other videos, is just to lock in place, and the dog will, the mind will move forward. But it's necessary, again, to have the collar tight enough at times. Now, the other issue is, because people ask me, Dale, is it okay to leave the collar off the dog? What I tell them is, no, leave the collar on the dog at all times, unless, of course, dog starts to get some irritation going on, and then you're going to remove the collar, treat the irritation, and then resume with using the collar. The reason you want to have the collar on the dog at all times, because again, you're going to be, if you look at the methodology that I'm using, you need a way to get a hold of the dog so that you can create these follower moments that I talk about to advance relational change. So again, the collar needs to be on the dog so you can get a hold of the dog, so you can create these moments. So the other issue with collars is, we talk about corrective collars. When I'm starting training, what I'm showing is, the reason I'm using a straight collar is, again, I'm I'm drilling it down. I'm showing the power, the relational power that's being expressed. So it's through the power of how you think. So therefore, you want to have proper relational alignment. So, for example, if you're using a corrective caller, and oftentimes because the relationship is misaligned, and therefore the devices that are being used by the dog owner before they start using this relational model, everything that's being used, including even corrective collars with, say, the choke type collars, what happens is they represent just control, because nothing's being advanced at the relational level. So so when you start to use the devices properly, when they start to align properly with relational change, they become more powerful within that context. So that's why I really get away from the corrective collars, because what happens is it creates a type of a disconnect. It creates too much influence at that level with that device being used, because it's a manifestation, it's an extension of the mind, which is becoming more powerful. So the device, is like a tenfold type of increase. So therefore, you want to go to just a straight collar, because that's all you need. I mean, and it creates the right type of a natural type of a alignment. It's like the dominoes are all falling properly. So, but however, at first, you may want to use both. You may want to leave the corrective collar, the choke chain, on the dog, because again, when you're doing this, it's all about confidence building, and it's all relational, and so you don't want to just transition over too quickly and kind of throw your psychology off. So therefore, using both and switching back and forth is okay. In fact, I encourage that. So again, just want to talk a little bit about the collar, and give you kind of an idea of how it's used. It needs to stay on the dog, but again, when you're creating these moments, you don't need a leash. There's off-leash methodology that I show with this, with creating these moments relationally, where your arm becomes the leash and your fingers are the hook. So you don't need a leash, but definitely the collar is kind of a core thing. You need the collar on the dog, so to get a hold of the dog, with your fingers. Again, I would really encourage you to check out my book if you're if you're interested in understanding this relational model, and because what I show is training. It's nothing more than an intervention, to begin with. Really, the relational dominoes are falling, regardless of what type of training methodologies that are being used. So, all I'm doing here is I'm lifting the curtain fully on this connection issue, because it's critical to understand it. So here, my book, my basic book here, it's called Beyond the Leash Dog Psychology Training Guide. I would encourage you to pick it up. It explains the collar issue, explains these moments of influence, and gets you on the right path. So the book can be, again, purchased through my website directly, my guide section of my website, and it really will help you get started. It has lots of photos in it that show these moments happening, with leash technique. So we'll get you on the right path. And if you're in the Florida area, I would encourage you to check out my site. I offer training, both in-home instruction, or people come to where I'm at, and training is based on a as-needed basis. So because again, it's an intervention. So again, I encourage you to you can get a hold of me through my website, and I hope this video was informative and helped a little bit, at least, get you started in the right direction. Thanks very much.